ladies and gentlemen of internet land. Welcome to Walking with J.Beau. I am your walking friend and pal. Today we're going to do 6 miles on this Saturday, February 15th. It warmed up to a balmy 27 degrees. Hope you're all having a wonderful winter. Probably not, if you're in New England anyway. Pretty nasty winter this year, have to admit. Now, as you can tell by the sky, when you start seeing the sun have thin filtering clouds like that, typically that means there's a storm coming or bad weather, which there is. We're supposed to get anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow starting tonight into Sunday night. So we've had about 24 hours with no snow. There's barely a breeze today, so it's nice for a walk. So that's what we're doing. You can see some snow banks here, which everybody's used to here growing up around here. Might look kind of funny to some people online, live down south. Hi. Now that guy, I've seen him out here before, more recently, and he's wearing a mask, so I don't know what his issue is, if he's afraid of getting sick or he is sick, or maybe his face is just cold. I have a cloth kind of tube, I guess you'd call it, around my neck, and when my face gets cold I just pull it up over my face till it warms up, so I look like a bandit from the Old West. Like right now my face is a little cool, but my body's warm, and as I generate more heat walking, my face will get flushed, will warm up. So we gotta climb over this snowbank here. There we go. City has had a difficult time keeping up with all the snow we've gotten, but as you can see, it's not too bad of a job. And a lot of this on the side here is melted, as you can see, so it's not hard ice, it's kind of slushy almost. Thanks. That guy in that truck almost jackrabbited in front of me. He's in a hurry to get somewhere. Wasn't looking for people walking. And he's got a snowplow in the front of his truck. So, but as I've stated before, when you keep an eye on such things, situational awareness and all that, We are going to do a selfie view today for some of this walk. Fingertips on my right hand are starting to get cold already. I think these gloves have worn themselves out. They have served me well. Very nice LL Bean gloves. I have gotten diesel fuel on them, gasoline, everything else. I wear these when I have to do something outdoors. Might be time to retire them and get another pair. But anyway, I want to apologize for my last video upload because I had the wrong camera setting and it was a little herky-jerky. I watched it through and I almost decided, well, probably shouldn't upload this. Because usually if it's something I don't enjoy looking at, I don't think anybody else will, but I did get a comment on the video and they did enjoy it. So thank you, V-Man. You know who you are. So anyway, boy, there's so much freaking crap going on right now. I think what I'm going to do is talk about the judges blocking Trump with injunctions. As irritating as it is, it's part of our system, and it's actually good that we have it because that goes both ways. And generally speaking, appellate courts are more neutral and less political because they understand people's trust in the judicial system is very important. But how bad has the poison gotten with far left people that just hate Trump and want to stop him? So that's why we have a Supreme Court. And it would be a damn shame if every single one of these injunctions end up having to go to the Supreme Court, but usually they don't. We already just had one overturned that was blocking DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, from looking into personal records. Not personal records, but personnel records. Okay, there's a difference. That was one of the things they had sued to block. That just got overturned, so now Elon can get busy with that. So it just slows things down. It slows down the inevitable. Trump's going to win on most of them. He'll probably lose on some of them. But that's what we got. That's the system we have. They can choose to accept the appellate court's ruling or appeal to the Supreme Court, which is another option, but it depends how important that topic is, because you don't want to waste the Supreme Court's time either. They have a pretty solid schedule. So we'll just ride it out, man. We'll ride it out. Very early this morning, I watched 3 more hostages, Israeli hostages, released by Hamas, and it was live streamed. Hamas is really something they love to do is propaganda. They absolutely love propaganda. They make all kinds of it. They had photographers. I will say these 3 prisoners that were released seemed to be somewhat healthy. One of them looked rather thin, And his picture before he was taken, he was not thin. So Trump had wanted all the hostages released by noon today, and then informed Netanyahu and Israel that, well, they're releasing 3. So I'll leave it up to you, Benjamin Netanyahu, to decide what happens next. Now, Hamas has already pledged to destroy Israel. That's their mission, to destroy Israel. Even if it means sacrificing themselves, which they have done. They do enjoy martyrdom. Because it is a religious thing. With them, and they're fanatic about it. So they're going to be little sons of bitches. They will fight to the last man. And you have to think about World War II Japan, how these Japanese were fanatic like that. And that's just what we're dealing with. So Israel has not many options. Sure, they could go in and kill the rest of them, and they'd probably succeed, be very good at it. But they have politics at home to deal with. It has been made very clear by the Israeli public that the hostages Hamas has, they want them home. They want them freed and rescued. So Israel knows, because of how Hamas is, that if they go in to just exterminate Hamas, those prisoners are going to be killed. Not by the Israelis, but by Hamas, because they have already done that. When Israel was invading Gaza, they cornered a whole bunch of Hamas, and they fought to the death, and they killed all the hostages they had. When the Israelis showed up, they had all been executed, gunshots to the head, things like that. So that's what you're going to get from Hamas. Now, Hamas isn't as stupid and fanatical. Well, they're fanatical, but they're not as stupid as they look. They understand the situation Israel's in. So they're milking it to get as many of their Hamas fighters back that were taken prisoner. So trading 3 Israeli prisoners for 300 Palestinian Hamas fighters, terrorists basically, is a very good deal for Hamas. So that's why they are milking this. They don't want to free any Israeli hostages, they want to kill them. But they're not going to, because they're getting their fighters back. It's a trade tool, a commodity. So Israel is going to have elections. And you have a faction in Israel that are very similar to the Democrats. They want this war to stop, and if they get in power, they will stop it. Even if it puts their country at risk, because they don't care about that. They care about political capital. So I'm going to flip the camera around. Hi, everybody. Hi. It's J.Beau with the cold nose. So anyway, like I said, we're going to do 6 miles. Starting to get my body heat up now. My face is starting to warm up a little bit finally. So anyway, Israel is in a tough spot. And obviously they didn't ask for this. They had to respond to October 7 last year. They had to. So be careful where I walk here. I just walked into a couple of holes. Almost twisted my ankle, actually. That's why I'm wearing good hiking boots with the ankles tied up to the top. So anyway, the left is doing a lot of their cheap tricks here in the United States. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, every little thing he does, he's being watched like a hawk, and they're trying to make propaganda, anti-Trump propaganda, to make it look like Trump makes bad decisions by picking him. So there's this NATO summit. Pete Hegseth is speaking at it. Then somebody else starts speaking, and Pete Hegseth reaches underneath the podium, and there's a glass there with liquid in it. So he does what most people do if they're public speaking and they have just given a speech. Your throat gets a little dry and you want to drink something. So of course the glass he has isn't a glass. It looks like a rocks glass, like when you're drinking liquor. That's what they put there for him. Maybe it was a setup. So he stopped and took a drink, and there's a video of him which looks like a glass you would drink alcohol from. So they tried to say it was alcohol, they tried to make it alcohol, and it turns out it's just water. Because I guess they believe somebody that was accused of being on the job as a drunk would think it was an intelligent thing to do, to have alcohol on a public stage in Europe with the whole media watching, where he would just take a glass out from underneath the podium and stand there drinking it. And yeah, he would be that dumb, right? But the media got their picture and their video clip, and they even took the video clip and they sharpened the contrast and oversaturated the video color to make it look like the shadow in the glass was a brown liquid, like whiskey or something. So these people are so dishonest. There's plenty of media photographs from the side angle when he drank that. It's very obviously water. So then they turn around and say, well, vodka's clear, it must be vodka. So these people are just horrible people, awful. Anyway, it was water, because nobody's that dumb. And I saw one person online, yeah, nobody's that dumb. They just bring their laptop to a laptop repair place that has all this stuff on it and forget to go pick it up. Talking about Hunter, of course, and how a lot of people were saying that it was disinformation, it was fake. So they're trying to equate Pete Hegseth not drinking as to us doing what the Democrats did, denying the laptop was anything. And for one thing, the laptop was not dropped off in front of the world's media. So that's a pretty big discrepancy in that argument. And even Hunter wouldn't be stupid enough to do that in front of the media. So anyway, a lot more effort walking on messy sidewalks, I gotta tell you. I'm gonna move over to the street here on the side. Hope I don't get killed. I mean, they did a pretty good job, but I'm walking 6 miles, you know. 6 miles on that feels like 9. So anyway, hope everybody's having a beautiful weekend so far. I hope you can escape the storm we're gonna get. And if not, well, we'll just ride it out. So it's pretty interesting watching the media try to drive a wedge between Elon Musk and Trump. And it was really nice to see the interview on Hannity with Elon Musk and Trump laughing about it. I thought it was really cute and funny. If you haven't seen that yet, you should check it out. Good interview. And what Trump is doing is constitutional, for one thing. You know, they're trying to say it's not, but it is. And Trump has a whole army of lawyers in the White House, and they're not going to do anything illegal. And the thing is, okay, if public opinion changes on Trump with a lot of people, which it could. I'll get into why shortly. This is something Trump really needs to worry about. Because if you get Democrats in the House 2 years from now, less than actually, 2026 elections, 2027, the Democrats are going to spend it impeaching Trump again. And they're going to use what he's doing now as an excuse, saying it's illegal. So he can't just go ignoring judges. And we don't know what kind of support Trump will have from Republicans after midterms. If Trump starts getting to be unpopular with enough of the public, where Republicans are going to kind of do what they did with Biden and save themselves. The only thing I can see that would hurt Trump, because right now he's riding a big high because he's got this big tsunami of momentum doing what the public mandated, doing what was voted for, which is to defund the government, save tax dollars, and stop this ridiculous spending. And now the people are supporting Trump even more because they're seeing what the government was wasting money on. So that is win-win for Trump, because you know they're going to find a whole lot of ridiculous fraud, awful stuff, and they're going to be transparent about it. Because everything that they reveal to the public puts the Democrats on a stance that they have to defend wasteful spending just to go against Trump, and that's not going to work for them. So Trump knows that. You can call that 3D, 4D chess, whatever you want to call it, but that's basically what that is. I mean, your cause is just. The truth will reveal itself. Whether they file injunctions to stop it or not. A perfect example, Elizabeth Warren, Senator, very upset that they were going to be looking into a certain department that she was involved in. And Elon was on social media asking how people like Elizabeth Warren get paid $122,000 a year, end up being worth tens of millions of dollars. How does that happen? So Elon said they're going to look at the finances of people in these departments to see where they're getting their money and where it's going. And Elizabeth Warren absolutely went ballistic, and that court order just got overturned. So Doge is going to be looking at Elizabeth Warren's bank accounts, because she's a government employee, a government official, and she got herself involved in one of the departments as employment, so her records are fair game. When you're an employee of the government, it's not the same as a private citizen. You sign paperwork when you start, and call it taking an oath, or whatever you want to call it. So a lot of these people are going to be bound by their own want and greed, basically. So this should be interesting, and we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of everything that's going to happen with them. This is going to be glorious, guys. Seriously, guys and gals. So we are well on our way to witnessing history. I think RFK Jr. was correct. I think Trump is historically going to be a pivotal, important president in our history, with the likes of Thomas Jefferson and people like that, because we are at a time where our republic has deteriorated to the point where it's no longer functioning like it should. We are tremendously in debt. Our national deficit now is greater than our GDP. That means government spending has to be dramatically cut to save hundreds of billions, or perhaps even $1 trillion or $2 of taxpayer money that isn't even coming from taxpayers anymore. We're just printing money and borrowing. Nobody's household can survive like that, and neither can the United States. It's just a matter of time before we are bankrupt, broke, and we've destroyed ourselves. So Trump is coming along at the right time in history. More importantly, he's coming along, whether he does a perfect job or not, it has to be done. Somebody has to attempt it, and he has to have some success at it. Because if he succeeds at it, the Democrats are going to try to emulate that to get votes. That's really the thing. Like this midterm election coming up, they're going to try to pass themselves off as moderates who care about the deficit and the border after all the crazy lunacy we saw them doing. Got little doggies here. Hi! Hi, little doggies. We got one over there by the window. One over here. Aren't they cute? So, we got all these people that are going to be running for office in Congress because they want to get the House back. They want to try to emulate what Jared Golden in Maine is like, where Jared Golden proposes a bill with 10% tariffs across the board to sound good with Trump voters. And I will say that he will put that bill forth in DC, but it's not going to get put on the floor with Republicans because Trump has his own agenda, and the Republicans really aren't anxious to help Democrats unless it's something that's actually good. But basically it's stuff Trump's doing anyway, so, you know, he's trying to appeal in this red district is what he's doing to keep his job in 2026, because he almost lost it this time. And I've also noticed he hasn't been talking about guns at all. So, walking by cars covered in snow. We've got a car coming up behind us. If you can hear it. That's why I don't listen to music. That's why I don't listen to music when I'm walking. I like to hear traffic behind me. So, anyway, I'll switch hands here. My hand's getting tired. So we're walking along here. Gotta try to get a good camera view. That's not bad, is it? Nah, that ain't bad. So anyway, they try to play the moderate, and it's a good strategy because they're capable of it, and they're actually capable of governing that way. That's one thing that kind of ticked off the establishment in DC. Is it's the only thing I'll give Jared Golden credit for, is he actually, besides the fact that, before I say that, he is a flip-flopper. He'll say one thing and then he'll change his mind on that policy. But he looks at it like, well, you know, people change their mind on things all the time. They get more information, they take a different viewpoint. It's okay to have discussions and change your opinions. Yeah, well, that's flip-flopping. You're supposed to be doing what the people want, not what you want, right? So, seem to get a happy camera angle. Well, that ain't bad. So anyway, that's the way Maine is. It's different than any other state. It really is. It is a purple state. It's still a purple state, even though Democrats run the legislature, Senate, and they have the governorship. And it sounds funny to say that, but the people in Maine get riled up and they get pretty pissed off quickly when things don't go the way they should, and that's starting to happen to the Democrats. That's why the legislature here, they have a last day to do business at the end of a legislative period in a year before recess, and they really tried to play a lot of dirty tricks and pull some shenanigans with the Senate Majority Leader, who was a Democrat, who used to be a Republican, then he went independent, and then he went Democrat. He changed his party affiliation with the political weather. The state of Maine was Republican in 2015. Governor, legislature, we got constitutional carry, all kinds of stuff like that. And then it went Democrat again. So, the reason why it's starting to turn red again is the media has lost its teeth. That's one of the big reasons here. The newspapers are all losing money. I think George Soros' company, one of his companies, a shell company, bought all the major newspapers here. Portland, Lewiston, Kennebec Journal, Bangor Daily News. So they own all the newspapers. But they don't hold any weight. For one thing, they're only showing news to their subscribers because they use paywalls because they need the income. Advertising dollars have dropped, and the thing is People just aren't, they're not subscribing, they're not reading. They're losing money. People are taking in independent alternative media. And yes, a lot of the independent media, you get an email on a listserv, you try to read the article, it's just ads, pop-ups. That just comes with it. They do have to pay their bills. But a lot of the information they have is information you need. And there's also some subscription services, a couple bucks a month, you know, where they'll actually have non-biased news. There's one called Freedom something, where they actually show both sides of the news, and they have what readers and subscribers rate the media company that is showing it. So you get a leftist article, and right at the top of the article, before you start reading it, it tells you that this is a very left-biased media source. So read what you're going to read at your own peril, is basically what it says. And then there will be an article next to it written by a right-wing writer, the same topic. And then you'll have an independent journalist article that echoes a little bit of both. So that's the kind of thing that's good for people. And I really think that has been a healthy thing, and a lot responsible for the Democrats losing power across the country. And they are losing across the country. Even in deep blue states, where they have a very healthy lead in the legislature, not any signs of losing it anytime soon, they have lost seats. They've lost power. And when they don't lose power, even New York lost power. You see what happens when rabid progressive liberals run the entire government. Everybody's overtaxed, businesses leave, they do stupid things like try to get illegals to be able to vote, which is the current thing they're working on. They want to get 800,000 illegals to be able to vote in New York elections. Wish I was making it up, but that was in the news this week. That's definitely unconstitutional. That should lose in the Supreme Court. You have to be a citizen to vote. It's been that way for a long time. It's on everybody's law books, even New York. But point being is they control the legislature there. They have a trifecta. They got the governor, legislature, and Senate, just like they do in Maine. But what I was alluding to a few minutes ago is the governor in Maine was smart enough to smell the political winds. She vetoed a lot of the crazy leftist bills that passed in the Senate, and they ended up not being made into law. Two of them were anti-gun laws. So she refused to allow the anti-gun legislation to pass because she saw the books, she saw the political numbers. Republicans were gaining. So that's why we're a purple state, even when we have Democrats. Because the Democrats know voters here don't screw around, and they will lose. As we see a mail truck here. Got a mail truck. Switch hands again. There we go. Whew. Hands get numb after a while holding that like that. But I like making these, so it's okay. There we go. So anyway, we're going to enjoy our walk today. Walking equipment for a day today. Alright, I'm wearing cargo pants because they're loose fitting. You want loose fitting clothing so the warm air, the air warms up against your skin. I also wear leggings that are kind of thick, so they're a little bit less than the old-fashioned long johns, but a lot more comfortable to wear. That's why a lot of male athletes wear leggings. I want to refrain from calling them tights, but that's what they are basically. And they keep you warm. Now, I know an older guy that was in the Marine Corps, and when it was cold like this and they'd have to go out and do things, they would actually wear pantyhose. Joe Namath played football wearing pantyhose. And the other good use for pantyhose is protects you from ticks. So when you're out in the brush crawling around in the grass or walking through grass, a lot of these ticks will hang on the bottom of a leaf and they can sense temperature basically. And when you walk by, they latch onto you, and they don't bite you right away as soon as they get underneath your clothing. They crawl up your body and they find a spot where they can suck your blood in peace and quiet. Now, excuse me, last July I had a big fat tick growing on my right shoulder blade on the back. I didn't notice until it got engorged, because then I could feel it and my right arm was starting to hurt. And I didn't get any diseases from it, thankfully, but I could have gotten Lyme disease or something. And basically what ticks do is they latch on, they feed off you while they're making eggs. Now, they don't lay the eggs on you or in you, but when they get engorged, they get big enough, they just fall off. Then they crawl somewhere and die. And those eggs hatch, however that works. So they make more ticks. And birds eat ticks, so that's bird food. And nature's just funny that way. So a lot of times when you see a deer who's covered in ticks, it's temporary. They will engorge themselves and fall off. It's part of the cycle. It's not nice to look at. But deer ticks in Maine is a problem for deer. And people too. Worst time of year in Maine, ticks, is May and June. Beginning of May till the end of June, first week or two of July. And it also varies a lot on how much rainfall you had in the spring. So last year we had ticks galore because the year before we had a lot of rain. We had a lot of rain over winter. The ground was saturated, and the ticks did very well, as did everything else. But after the spring happened, all of summer into fall and most of winter, up until now, it has been bone dry. Driest Maine has been since the year 2000. So that's what nature does. And I'm going to turn this around. But every time I come this way, right down there where that lime green road sign is, you take a right there, not even a quarter mile, and that's where that horrible mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine happened, where 18 people were killed. So I always point that out on the walk. So as you can see, this is what you have to walk on when you walk in the wintertime, which is why I wear hiking boots that can deal with this. They're waterproof. As you can see, my hiking boots are starting to get worn out because I've hiked my little feet off. I walked 1,339 miles last year. That's enough to walk from here to Western Tennessee. That's a lot of walking. So like I said, we are going to have a storm tonight. And if you remember that video clip I just showed you of me head to toe, you'll know if you watch my walks that I am physically fit. And I looked puffed out because I'm wearing an ultra thick winter LL Bean hoodie. I'm wearing a thick hoodie underneath that. I am wearing a t-shirt on top of a long sleeve thermal shirt underneath that. So I'm probably puffed out to almost a 3XL shirt size when I wear extra large normally. And I can wear a large also, because now an extra large is loose on me. So I have gained about 7 pounds since winter started, because I haven't been walking as much. And I love eating trail mix. And trail mix is pretty high calorie. It's made for when you're walking, so you have energy. And it's a good snack. It's a lot of nuts, raisins, dates. And that's always a good thing to eat. Always a good thing to eat. It's healthy. I see a lot of ridiculous news about don't eat nuts, they're bad for you. Which reminds me of something I saw in the news. They're looking into it in university studies. You get a lot of these kids today, like RFK was saying, and this is why it's good to nominate people like RFK, because people talk about it. He's talking about how his kids have peanut allergies. Most of his kids that he has have some sort of allergy. And when you and I grew up, we didn't know really anybody that had asthma, peanut allergy. You know, maybe somebody would get hay fever once in a while, but that's just pollen irritating your nose. I'm not sure it's really an allergy, even though people call it their allergies, which I think that was a political, not political, but I think that was a big pharma. They've been doing this for a long time. I think they like to create things and then have the media reaffirm it. So we're awake to all this stuff now, but I think they've been doing that for a long time. So I don't think it's possible to have pollen in the air and it irritates your nasal passage and you start sneezing, to actually have to call that an allergy. Because that bothers everybody to some degree. So does dust in a house. And these people that say they're allergic to cats, same thing. No, it's just dust and dander from pets making you sneeze. I don't think that's an allergy. I don't buy it. I think that was a way for Big Pharma to sell allergy medication. Just like they're still selling everything by making stuff up. So I think a lot of people are awake now. And, oh, we got a little doggy here. And the kid's taking the dog off to the side because he's picking it up too. These little dogs are usually pretty ornery. The smaller they are, the more gnarly they are. But right now I'm definitely going to go on the road because this sidewalk is terrible. And this sidewalk is terrible because people clean their driveway, and you can see where they shot all the snow with their snowblower, and they buried the sidewalk here. I don't do that where I live because what this is right here, there's actually a city ordinance saying you can't do this, and that is illegal to do that. Blocking a pedestrian way or pushing snow out onto the street, across the street, that's there's a fine for that here. And it's for that reason, because now it's unsafe and I'm walking in the road because of it. And I could get hit and die. And it's that person's fault. Now the property that we have, I clean that part of the sidewalk far enough so it's always clear for packages to be delivered, the mailman, people walking, etc. Because I'm courteous and I'm not a jerk. Oh, this kid's got a puppy. Isn't that cute? Boy's carrying his puppy. Isn't that cute? So we got about 3 miles left. I'm at the halfway point. So yes, this picture quality will be much better than my previous walk. I really apologize for that. And I was going to mention why earlier, is when you're walking at night with these GoPros, unless you get the really more expensive one, you need a gimbal with it. And a gimbal, all it does is it absorbs the shock from moving. This has an internal stabilizer electronically. It actually delays what I'm recording, and then it corrects the motion of it while it's recording, and it does a very good job. I also have the horizontal setting on, which is why the picture isn't doing this back and forth when I walk. Most cell phone cameras have that now, and so the reason why it's important is to get a wider image in there so it moves less. You have to put it on super wide screen, which I did, but I left it on 1080p. It's too small of a frame size to absorb the motion. And I did a couple of night walks where I used 4K picture quality. And while I did not upload it or encode it in 4K after it was recorded, the source video was pretty stable because of the extra screen taken up. So when you move the camera, because you had a bigger screen, it was like being on a calmer ocean rather than a rough sea, if that makes sense. So I didn't set that for the last walk I was on, and it looked pretty terrible. I'm really sorry. Like I said, I almost didn't upload it, but I talked about a lot of interesting stuff, I thought, and it's like, well, people can either watch it or just let it play and listen to it or whatever, or not watch it at all. So anyway, this is Maine Typically in February, this is what it's always looked like growing up. Past 5 years or so, we've had winters where the snow wouldn't stay. It would warm up to 40 degrees, melt, get cold again, have a foot snowstorm, then it would melt. But this is a real winter like I grew up with. So, just haven't seen it for 3-4 years. But now we have it, so. Now you get to see what it looks like. And you get to see why people, when they get old and want to retire, they leave Maine so they don't have to clean this crap anymore. I gotta be honest with you, I do love Maine and I love the seasons. As much as I would prefer it to be warmer than it is, you miss it when you don't have it. That's just true. Well, a lot of people like that woman down there walking when it's cold, just like me. Right now I'm not cold because I'm walking, and like I've explained, when you get your blood flow going, your blood vessels expand in your fingers as well as your face. You get cold when you're not moving. That's like being, it's like a shark. You stop swimming and you drown. Oh, we're doing okay today. My back's not doing bad today because we walked just a couple days ago. Talking with a guy last night from Montana when I was doing groceries. He was saying that compared to Montana, even the temperatures we have that I feel is cold, he said feels a lot warmer, because some parts of Montana have -20, -30 overnight with a high of -7. It doesn't last the entire winter, but it is damn cold. Not something you want to break down in your car in the middle of nowhere with. So when it's cold like that, you have to plan your trips, and you have to have things in your vehicle that will help you. I don't have anything extravagant in mind. I do have a couple of traction things that you can chuck underneath the wheels. I have a shovel, jumper cables, and a cell phone, because other than that, there's not much you can do if your car breaks down out in the boonies. But if you're stuck in the snow, you can't move your car, you're going to have to sit in it with your car running, and you need to clear your tailpipe so you don't get carbon monoxide poisoning and die. So it's not on my agenda of things I want to do anytime soon. Well, one never knows. When God wants to take you, he takes you. So anyway, it does smell like snow is coming. I've tried to describe that smell to you guys. The air changes and it smells extremely fresh and clean. Not that it doesn't smell fresh and clean here, but it has a different smell to it. I'm sure the Native Americans, aka Indians, indigenous peoples, knew about all that stuff. They could probably predict weather coming, looking at the sky and the cloud patterns, better than some of the weather people today using computer models. You know, it might sound funny to say that. Computer models are good at predicting, okay, a week and a half from now, there's going to be a storm system going through this area. They don't give you details. I didn't know how much snow we were going to get until yesterday, basically. And even then, some news sources said 3 to 4 inches. Another one said 4 to 6. Another one said 7 to 8. 6 to 8. Another one said 6 to 10. And now they all agree upon 6 to 10 for where I am. Northern Maine's probably going to get about 18 inches of snow. Without any mix, we're expected to, towards the end of it, change over to sleet. And the coast is going to get freezing rain, which I don't think will be a huge problem. But Monday is going to be very windy. Gusts 45 to 50 mile an hour. And if you have ice on power lines, trees, and tree limbs, that puts a lot of ice weight from the ice on limbs with high winds will break the limbs, especially pine trees. So, but if it's just sleet, sleet is little ice pellets. And let's switch the camera around. Now, when you get sleet, what happens is you have way up in the atmosphere, it starts to snow, and then it hits a warm pocket underneath it. It usually comes in from a storm front that comes in from down south, like this one is. This one's actually going to draw moisture off the Gulf of America. Isn't that nice to say that? I think that's the first time I used that in a sentence. Historic. So it's going to suck in some moisture, dipping down south through Texas and the south before it rides up the east coast after sucking moisture from Gulf of America. Gulf of America. I'll say that a few times. So anyway, look both ways for crossing. Somebody just came around the corner here. Hurry up and get across. So what happens is you get snow, comes down to snow, and then it gets to a certain level and it melts in the warmer air. It turns into water. Then, as it gets closer to the ground, that warm pocket is gone and it gets cold again, and then it turns into an ice pellet. That's where sleet comes from. Now, freezing rain is the same thing, except that zone for warmth is much wider and closer to the ground, and it doesn't have time to refreeze into an ice pellet before it hits the ground. So the liquid hits the ground and freezes instantly because the ground is below 32 degrees. So it's like spraying water on something that's frozen, it'll freeze to it. So that's what freezing rain is. The coast is expecting about 2/10 of an inch. Anything under a 1/4 inch of icing can survive, but if you add a lot of wind to it, yeah, you know, without much wind, a quarter inch or more puts a lot of water weight on trees. So that can be very dangerous with regard to power going out. I'm gonna watch where I'm walking here. It's kind of icy. I don't know if you can see that. Now right here I'm on a snowy part, but that part back there was ice. So anyway, where I am here, it's anticipated it's just going to be sleet. Now sleet has its own problems. It's a lot more difficult to clean up. But the good news is that it's going to sit on top of fresh snow. The weight of that, depending on how much sleet you get, may compress the snow down so it's more compressed and not as fluffy, which makes it more difficult to clean. Best thing in the world to clean is nice, fresh, fluffy white snow when the high temperature is about 20 degrees. The snow is always light and fluffy. You could clean it. It seems like you could clean it with a leaf blower if you wanted to. It's like feathers, basically. That's an exaggeration, but it's... let's just say it's dry, okay? It's not wet. It's easy. There's no slush. So... but... mess with that mixture even just a little bit and things get more difficult. Sleet is much more difficult to drive in because just little ice pellets. It's like little ball bearings. So I am going to have to change the battery soon, it looks like. I got about maybe 10% left, according to that little gizmo on the screen that you can't see. But it's nice to be able to use the selfie stick today, even though it's overcast. It does help me to look better. Lighting is everything with these things. Digital cameras can be very cruel. A lot of times I play back my videos and I go, ew, I don't look so good there. And it has to do with the sun angle. The sun angle will show every single feature on your face that is not good. You can actually see every past pimple you had as a teenager, for example. And you can see every age line, every wrinkle. But in lighting like this ain't too bad because it's overcast. And you know, the light amplification on this isn't bad for the daytime view. I have the ISO shutter exposure set pretty good. Shutter speed's at 60. If you're using a GoPro and you want to know what settings I'm using, I got 1080p. I have it on the highest quality recording. I just like how that looks better. And right here we got a flooded part of the sidewalk. That is a unfrozen, kind of semi-frozen, slushy friggin' mess. You walk through that, your foot's gonna get submerged. So anyway, having a good walk today. This is nice. Monday there's going to be high winds, and then Tuesday, well, Monday night, Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be brutal cold here. It's going to be terrible, but it might be the last throes of that kind of winter. I'm anticipating temperatures to moderate coming up because February is a short month. It's already the 15th today. And it's not going to go quietly. Because of that damn gopher in Pennsylvania, that little son of a bitch, said we're not having an early spring. And it looks like he's right. I don't even want to go there. These days we're going to trust gophers. But I'm going to have one night. It's probably going to be about -7 overnight. And, you know, that's been pretty common this winter. It has been sucking up everybody's heating fuel. People are going to have to order more than they normally would have. Property taxes have gone up. Homeowners insurance has gone up. Now I'm going to get into talking about things that are going to hurt Trump. And I'm not really sure what he can do about it immediately. In the long term, he's doing what we need to have done to lower prices. But people are going to start getting upset because he campaigned on lowering prices. And the media, they tried to talk about the prices going up, like eggs. They tried to make that an anti-Trump thing, but then people realized, I don't think Trump was president. And also, we don't think that Trump caused bird flu to have millions of egg layers euthanized because of bird flu. So, the price of eggs and chicken right now are up there pretty good. So, I have noticed buying snack mix. Two of the snack mixes I like have gone up almost $1 in the past month and a half. And it's going to be interesting to see what companies are doing this on purpose to hurt Trump and which ones aren't, because Trump is very business friendly right now and a lot of corporations are liking what he's doing. So I think Trump might actually be able to work out lowering costs. But, you know, we've got to give him time. He hasn't even been in office for a month. A little over 3 weeks. I mean, come on, really? He's doing a lot of other things that are important. And in the long term, it's going to lower prices. And I said this on my walks before the election even. If you research it and you understand economics, prices of things didn't skyrocket and get out of control, as well as fuel prices, until about a year after Joe Biden's executive orders caused it. They tried to blame it on the war in Ukraine, which had a small effect on natural gas and things like that. But not for everyday items that people use diesel fuel for, you know what I mean? So we had a combination of the pandemic, which in hindsight we should never have locked down. And it's not Trump's fault. I mean, you're in the White House, you're president, somebody springs a pandemic on you. The first thing you think of is the influenza pandemic. In the early 1900s, that killed 1 in 5 people, regardless of age, but specifically mostly kids and the elderly. That was nasty. And that could happen again. So you're in the White House and you got people like Fauci and Beatrice Burks, whatever the hell her name is, Burks, convincing Trump that we have to lock the country down because millions of people could die. So that obviously never happened. It might have been a reasonable safety precaution for a couple of weeks, but the Democrats turned that into years. All right, hey, sorry about that. battery ran out, had to change it. But like I was saying, you know, the people milked the pandemic. And I think a lot of Democrats saw it as a cash grab. And Democrats were in charge of Congress, passed a bunch of legislation, emergency legislation. No politician wants to say, I voted against saving your family from misery and possibly death, so everybody just voted for all the spending. And all that government spending caused a lot of inflation. And then the Democrats, being what they are, had Congress and the Senate, and they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which was actually more government spending, and they did lie to the people about that. They wanted their green energy contracts to make the rich richer, which they deny that that's what they do, but that's what it did. And inflation shot up through the roof. And now we're broke. The good news is all of this came back on them and they lost the elections. So now they're going to pay the piper. It's called a comeuppance. Every action has a reaction. So, and I've said this a million times, if Obama had not been a progressive jerk and shoved far left extremism down everybody's throats, Trump would never have been elected, because there'd be no reason for people to elect him. Hi, doggy. Hey, baby. So, oh, we got another dog over here. I think that's the one that's never tied down. I'm going to cross over here. She's letting him out to go walkies. Yeah, he's not going to be dangerous. He keeps looking back at the owner's door. He's just letting the owner know somebody's out here. You can always tell when the dogs are actually dangerous because they will just charge at you. When they're standing there barking, you gotta watch their tail. It's one thing to watch. And their demeanor. This one here wasn't very eager to bark. The closer I got, it gave a couple of woofs and it kept looking back at the door of the house. So that's a well-trained dog, well-mannered. And that dog is basically seeking permission from the owner. Now, if the owner sticks their head out and says, go get him, the dog will go get him. So the sky is getting a little lower now than when I started the walk. That storm is starting to move in. We've got thicker, lower clouds. The air feels like it's got more moisture in it. It's got more of that fresh storm smell I was telling you about. Nice deep breaths, feel nice. So I guess what I was alluding to as we hit 4.5 mile mark is you got to be patient, guys. You got to be patient with Trump. He's got a lot on his plate. There's a lot to fix, unfortunately. He's in Mar-a-Lago today and he's working, making phone calls. He's, you know. So the reporting today, and that's another thing too, you can't rely on the media's reporting right now. You just can't. They got caught lying about Pete Hegseth, saying that Pete Hegseth was going to work out some kind of deal with Russia. It was bad reporting. It was just to make Pete Hegseth look like he didn't know what he was doing. And so the White House has a contingency plan for that. I guess they have a whole team of people that just call lawmakers and explain to Republicans that, you know, the media isn't reporting things accurately. This is what's really going on. So, and you know, this was the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal used to be a credible media outlet. They used to be somewhat conservative, level-headed. Not anymore, folks. They have all changed. Some much worse than others. What's been really funny is DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, has been cutting out funding of these media outlets. We shouldn't be funding the media at all with tax dollars. You know, there should be a separation between the state and the media. There shouldn't be any subsidies, there shouldn't be any incentives. You know, and Obama started that. He did. You can research that. They disguised it as fairness in reporting because they didn't like what the conservative news was saying. So they wanted to combat misinformation by giving some of these media outlets some money so they could do better fact-checking and better work. And at the time, it sounded like a good idea. But look what it led to. Corruption. So we're going to start setting new rules and boundaries. You know, you want to enjoy the First Amendment, then you're not going to get any money from the government. I also think if a charity is going to be political, which is their option, well, if they're going to be political, affecting how people vote and changing government, then they should pay taxes. So if you're a church and you have a pastor up there wearing rainbows, promoting LGBT and far-left neo-Marxist causes with political overtones, you should get taxed. That would put an end to that pretty quickly. If you don't associate your church with relying on being taxed or not, then there's no incentive. You get all kinds of incentive to be neutral if it's going to cost your church money. So I think that's reasonable. And that goes both ways. You know, if you run a church down south and you're a conservative church and you're making yourself all political, you should have to pay taxes. It's just my opinion. Should have a separation of state from the church entirely. Period. As weird as that sounds, they will turn around and say, well, separation from the church and blah, 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 that means they should be able to say what they want and not worry about it. Yes, that's true. But a lot of these people take advantage of being tax-free, untaxed, because they're a religious or charity organization. Most of these charity organizations now are very political. When the people leading your charity do press conferences to trash Donald Trump, that's political. It's got nothing to do with your charity. I saw a woman on the news today. I traversed this slippery ice here. She said that what Elon and Doge was doing was a coup. She said it was a coup. You can't just fire people in the government. That's a coup. That's a takeover of the government. No, somebody needs to read the Constitution and understand the powers of the administrator, the chief executive thereof, the president, can fire whoever the hell he wants to. Doesn't even need a reason. It most certainly is not a coup. And the Democrats are going to find out pretty quickly that accusing the world's richest man, Elon Musk, of stealing billions of dollars in contracts just simply is not true. It doesn't hold its weight. The people are not believing it. In fact, the media is starting to change their narrative on that because Elon and Trump are getting more popular than they ever have been. Trump right now has got a 53% approval poll, a new poll that just came out. But the people are very happy he is downsizing government and firing government employees. People have wanted this for a long time and they're getting it. And in fact, Doge just said that. And the president too. This is what the people wanted. This is what they're going to get. Glory, hallelujah, huh? So what they're doing now is, I need to remind you what I was talking about. Trump needs to be very careful about prices, cost of living. A lot of people right now are seeing a 40 to 50% and even more homeowners insurance increase. That's an extra couple $1,000s a year, folks, to pay on your house. And a lot of people that were just barely getting by paying their mortgage, that's going to kill them. But that's what's happening right now. So the trickle-down effect from that is you start spending less money, buying less things, get rid of the second car that you have because you can no longer afford the insurance and to register it anymore, etc., so on and so forth. That has a trickle-down effect on the economy, and it will hurt the economy. But I know Trump knows that. He has smart people there. I don't know what kind of window they're expecting for things to improve. But I think Trump has about a year. If prices don't start coming down by the end of this summer and into the fall, I think you're gonna start having problems with the public, people that voted for you. I think a lot of people understand that this will take a lot of time. Trump has said that he can get prices down, he'll get prices down. He said he will, and he knows he will. It's just a matter of a time frame. So the combination of the government spending hundreds of billions and maybe even $1 trillion less annually is going to go a long way to lowering inflation, because most of the inflation comes from government spending. So right now the Trump administration is doing what politicians did not have the balls to do, but said they wish they could to get votes. But then, they didn't have the balls to actually do it like Trump is doing now. And hooking up with somebody like Elon is making it happen. Now those right there, folks, those are righteous icicles. And you can see by the size of the windows how big those suckers are. Those are major league. Now normally I'd do something stupid like walk up and tug on one, but if that whole ice shelf comes down, that's gonna hurt. I've seen that happen before. And you've seen video clips online of that happening, I'm sure. But Anyway, there they are. See that? Pretty good size. So we got a little bit of ways left on this walk. Hope you're enjoying it. So hopefully I talked about a lot of interesting things today, and again, I absolutely want to mention that I'm not a political expert, not in the least. I'm just older. I've seen a lot of crap, so have you, more than likely. And a lot of this stuff people know already, it's intuitive. But the last part of the walk, this is important. We saw one of the most historic speeches a president or vice president has ever given. If you have not seen this yet, I don't care how you do it, do a search and find it in its entirety on YouTube or Rumble or wherever you are. It should be all over the place. I'd recommend against watching 2 or 3 minute clips on social media. Find the full-length speech of J.D. Vance speaking in Munich this week. Now I'll give the run-up to this. When Trump was president before, he gave a speech at the United Nations, and some of the country's envoys at that laughed at Trump. Literally, they laughed loud enough to be heard to embarrass him on purpose while he was giving his speech. Why did they do that? Because Trump told them that Europe relying on natural gas and oil from Russia was a big mistake. They shouldn't be doing that. They should get out of this climate crazy bullshit and start getting their own natural gas and stop shutting pipelines down in your own country and relying on natural gas from Russia. Former president of Germany, some guy, I forget his name, it was before Merkel, was on one of the boards of one of these big fuel natural gas companies, getting mega rich, making sure natural gas coming from Russia gets sold into Germany. Germany gets to sell its climate change crap by banning fossil fuels in their country, but understanding that people needed natural gas, so they said, well, we'll just get it from Russia, it's cheap, and what could go wrong, right? So what happened is the Ukraine war happened. So while Trump was speaking at the UN, trying to tell these people they're making a mistake, because if there's ever a war with Russia and Ukraine or something like that, they're going to be screwed. And what happened? Exactly that. So it's like, who's laughing now, right? So J.D. Vance goes to Munich, gives one of the best consequential speeches a president has given, one of the top ones in my lifetime. I really highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, because the media tried to spend time making fun of it instead of actually showing the speech, trying to show the parts that they could possibly make JD look bad. And J.D. Vance went to Munich in front of all of these leaders of the world that were gathered there. That includes envoys from France, Germany, all of this stuff. And he gave a speech telling them that they are censoring their people, stifling free speech, locking people up because they were praying, which happened in Germany and in the UK as well, and how their citizens are being treated and oppressed and Europe has lost its way, he said, with liberty and freedom, and have turned into the bad guys. Well, that did not sit well with the Europeans, but the citizens who were watching this live and recorded it, because they're not allowed to talk about this stuff on the internet because they're accused of being far-right extremists. You see? They're going to be having elections in Germany, and there's a far-right political group that is gaining steam and momentum, and the media there is going into hyperdrive, trying to demonize them as white supremacists, racists, the same crap we had here and elsewhere. You've seen it all. And Germany is afraid because the people are pissed off. They've pissed off everybody. And they're going to vote for that other party. They saw what happened in America with Trump, and they are scared. They also saw a populist win in Denmark, in the Netherlands, I mean. And, you know, J.D. Vance mentioned right to their faces that there was an election in Romania, and the Romanian government in power didn't like the outcome of the election, so they did everything they could to discredit it, saying that Russia interfered in their election using the internet like they tried to do here when Trump won the first time. This isn't a new playbook with them. And they actually canceled the election result. They wiped out the entire democratic, or obviously non-democratic, election in Romania because the faction in power, which was far left, didn't like the result. People voted for the right-wing Common Sense Party because of migration, immigration issues, cost of goods, etc., energy policies, and they just erased the election using an excuse. And J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, stood up there and told the entirety of Europe on national TV that they shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And it was a glorious moment. It's one of the biggest things I've seen a politician do. And it shows you how big the friggin' balls are of the United States now on the world stage. To look them right in the face and say, you guys are authoritarian thugs. And if you want to do business with the United States, this has to stop. What more can you ask for from that, really? It hasn't even been a month yet. Hasn't been a month. And I'm getting more than I thought I was going to get with my vote already. So I highly urge you to go look up Munich with the speech that J.D. Vance gave this week in its entirety. Watch the whole thing. Absolutely amazing. Just amazing. And he's a good speaker. And he particularly was upset with Christians being oppressed, arresting people for prayer. And he gave an example of it. He said years before, this guy who was a veteran, by the way, military service, a woman got arrested in the UK for the same thing. And this guy in Germany, a veteran, was doing a silent prayer outside an abortion clinic. Didn't say anything, wasn't making noise, wasn't bothering anybody. He just looked like he was praying. The police came over, started badgering him, and they said he was praying, and they arrested him. And then the media tried to cover up why he was praying. He and his wife was deceased, she had been pregnant before, and they got an abortion. And he realized it was a mistake because now she's dead and he doesn't have a child. So obviously they didn't like that. And the other thing he told them to their face was that 1 in 5 Europeans now is a migrant. They didn't like that, but it's true. In Germany, I mean, 1 in 5. They have taken in so many people. And here's the thing, and he also mentioned this, that, you know, mathematically it's destructive to your country because white people, Europeans, are having maybe 1, maybe 2 kids, if you're lucky, and these migrants are having families of 9, 10 kids. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that 20 years from now, millions of babies being born now to illegals are going to be adults. And you're only going to be supplying 1 to maybe 2 Europeans for every 10 children of migrants. Now, they have laws there, similar to the United States, with birthright citizenship. You can give birth to a kid, they become a citizen. So that's the incentive. So the WEF, you can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, it's true. They are doing replacement of Europeans and white people globally. They're replacing people. It's the Great Replacement, that's what it's called. And you can't argue it. They're facilitating it, they're paying for it. They know it's unpopular with the people and they don't care. This is their agenda they want to do. And it's not for good humanitarian reasons. So, Europe, in my opinion, is already gone. I hate to say that. But the United States still has a chance. So does Canada. And the UK is on its way to, you know, Ireland, gone. Ireland's gone, folks. Scotland, it's gone. All of that great history with Scotland, Ireland, you know, and that's what these globalists wanted. This great replacement that they're doing is to replace the current theocracy and the way things are, your culture. They want to replace it and erase it, get rid of borders, and have a one world government. You know, I've talked about it a million times. It's not conspiracy, they're doing it. You can see it. This is what this is all about. Problem is, they don't understand Muslims, that they're going to take over Europe and it's going to become a Muslim nation. That's what they don't understand. They're creating another Middle East through stupidity, without looking at a history book of the thousands of people and Europeans that died killing Muslims because Muslims tried to invade Europe and take it over. They also the Mongols tried to take over Europe. So Europe has been a prize for conquer for a long time, and they're succeeding. So Europe's gone, it's done. It's time for the United States to get Greenland, the Panama Canal, so we can defend ourselves in the future against these threats, and the world has changed. It's no longer what we grew up in, and we need to acknowledge that, and we need to change accordingly. We need to be an isolationist nation. The United States needs to leave NATO before they stupidly get us into World War III, which is what they're desperately working on, because Zelensky is upset today that Trump and J.D. Vance are talking to Putin without letting him know first. Like, who the fuck is Zelensky we gotta let know first, you know? He's been sucking on our tax dollars. Russia's not gonna invade Europe. We know that. So, really, the peace deal is to be worked out with Russia. That's, you know, Ukraine's gonna do whatever the result of that is. And the United States is the big guy in town with all the money in the piggy bank, as Trump calls it. So that's just the way it's going to go. And NATO is calling an emergency session because of the United States and rhetoric from Trump. Macron is going to be heading that. And they're going to try to, what I think is they're going to try to keep war with Russia without Russia getting anything from Ukraine, which will never end the war. So NATO wants Ukraine to join NATO. Trump says it's never going to happen. So that's where we are right now. Because as soon as Ukraine joins NATO, we're obligated through Article 5 to do whatever NATO decides, which will be to have a war with Russia. We'll have to have troops on the ground. So I really, really hope President Trump leaves NATO. I really think we should, and I think that's a good move for us right now. It's an outdated and corrupt. It'd be nice if it was run properly and wasn't corrupt, but it is. So what do you do with that? You gotta leave, right? It's no longer viable to stay because you're gonna destroy ourselves if we do. So anyway, love you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed the walk and the talk. We'll talk to you soon. Click like and subscribe, share the content, and God bless you, and we'll see if we survive the storm we're gonna get. So we'll talk to you soon, folks. Bye-bye, everybody. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.